everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today we will be attempting to create the 2025 AFL fixture. I had a crack at it a couple years ago, didn't record it, I just attempted to make a fixture. I didn't end up completing it, but this year we're going to try and actually make a fixture for the 2025 season. As you're watching this, if this video comes out when I intend it to, it'll be Friday, the 27th of September, the day before the grand final. So you're only just a bit over 24 hours away from finding out who the 2024 premiers will be. I am recording this on Monday at 3:30-ish, so I don't even know who the Brownlow medalist is. But we know who the grand finalists are, and so I think we know enough to be able to make a fixture. So in this video, I want to start off by working out who plays who twice.
The fixture sees teams play each other once, leaving an additional 6 games where they will play certain teams a second time.
And there's a few no-brainers to start us off. I think the first no-brainer is that there should be a grand final rematch. So as you can see, I've listed all the teams in top 6, middle 6 and bottom 6. That's because there is a weighted rule.
Once the finals conclude in a season, each team's finishing position will determine who they play in their double matchups the following season. The final ladder is divided into thirds: the top 6, middle 6 and bottom 6. Based on finishing position, each team will play 2 to 3 double matchup games against teams in the same grouping and 1 to 2 games against teams in the alternate 2 groupings.
When the AFL makes a fixture, which basically gives the top teams a little bit of a harder fixture because they have to play the top teams more than they do the bottom teams. And so I think Brisbane Lions and Sydney Swans grand final rematch, despite the fact that teams that make the grand final usually don't do as well the following season, and so I probably will give them a slightly easier fixture compared to the rest of the top 6. I think a grand final rematch is a no-brainer. Another no-brainer is the showdown. The showdown obviously happens twice every year. Same thing with the Western Derby. So West Coast will play Freo twice, and the Dockers will play West Coast twice. And same with the other two same state rivals, Sydney Swans versus the Giants in the Sydney Derby. And of course, when it wants to paste, there we go. And of course, the Brisbane Lions taking on the Gold Coast Suns twice. So for the sake of organisation, I have all the top 6 in green, the yellow 6 in, the middle 6 in orange, and the bottom 6 in red. And so I'll just count the greens, the yellow, the oranges, and the reds that each team faces twice, so I know if it follows the weighted rule. As you can see, I've got the weighted rule here. So all of a sudden, I can only give Sydney one more top 6 team, which I'm thinking of not doing. I'm kind of thinking of giving Sydney a 2-2-2, because obviously you need to play 6 teams, and the top 6 can minimum play each other twice, and top 6 can play 2 repeat matches against the bottom 6 and the middle 6. So I think this is most of the no-brainers. So I think I've got all the no-brainers down. So I wouldn't mind, I might not mind giving the bottom 6 their team. So obviously I've given all the bottom six teams, or some of the bottom six teams, a team already. I'm going to continue by saying that North Melbourne and Richmond will play each other twice. And there's potentially a little bit of a rivalry brewing between Richmond and Gold Coast, because obviously if you have Richmond's old players that go on to Gold Coast coach Damien Hardwick used to coach Richmond, and there's some rumours that Dustin Martin is heading up to the Gold Coast. I don't think that'll eventuate, but there could be a little bit of a rivalry there, so I'm going to help that out. I'm thinking the Crows had an underwhelming season, bottom six teams. So obviously the Adelaide have got Port Adelaide, but I'm not sure who else I'm going to give them. I'm kind of wondering who I give North Melbourne. Obviously I've given them Richmond. I'm going to give them West Coast twice as well. I'll probably end up giving them a third team. I think it makes sense for Richmond to get an easier team. So I'm going to give Richmond and Melbourne a game each other. I think there's potentially a little bit of a rivalry there. And the fact that Melbourne, and I think the fact that they both finished in the bottom six, probably could have gone in just after the no-brainers, but I didn't think of that. So I need to give West Coast at least one more game, and Gold Coast at least one more game against bottom six teams. And I need to give Melbourne also one more game against bottom six teams. I can't give Richmond to anyone. I can't give anyone to Richmond, any of the bottom six teams to Richmond, because of how the weighted rule works. I can only give 3 bottom six teams to a bottom six team. So I'm thinking Gold Coast and West Coast. Yeah. I reckon they'll be about a similar level, so I reckon I'll give... And so I've given Gold Coast and West Coast their minimum quota. And so I think I'm going to give Adelaide to Melbourne and Melbourne to Adelaide. And so I just need to give Adelaide one team. Can't give them Richmond. Every other bottom six team has played each other twice. And I think it makes sense to give North Melbourne another bottom six game. So I'm going to give North Melbourne to Adelaide. Every bottom six team plays each other twice, at least. So I reckon I'm going to just kind of give each bottom six team one middle six and one top six team, I think. So, obviously, the Crows, West Coast and Gold Coast already have one. We've seen a few close games occur between Melbourne and Carlton over recent years. Can't remember a close game off the top of my head this year, but I think Carlton and Melbourne to me makes sense. I think Collingwood and North Melbourne played in a really good game against each other this year. That went right down to the wire. So I think I'm going to give them... So, who doesn't have... So it's just Gold Coast, Adelaide and Richmond that don't have a middle six team. I think Carlton and Richmond makes sense to play each other twice. They've already got a team. Essendon and Richmond play twice. I don't recall Essendon and Richmond playing each other twice in any recent seasons. And the fact that they play at Dreamtime at the G probably is a little bit of a factor. But I reckon you could make that work, and that might be interesting. So I'm going to give Richmond and Essendon to each other. And so it's just Adelaide and Gold Coast that need a middle six team. I think I'm going to give St Kilda to Gold Coast. St Kilda to Gold Coast, and Adelaide to the Dogs. That might actually be a potential gather round matchup. So now they all the bottom 6 teams have at least two bottom 6 teams and one middle 6 team. So I'm going to give them all a top 6 team. Obviously Gold Coast and Adelaide, just by having top 6 rivals, automatically get one. So this is probably the hardest one. I think Brisbane will be down the lowest. Brisbane and Adelaide played in a draw, so I think it makes sense to give them each other twice. Can I do that? Oh yeah, I can do that. I actually didn't need to do that, but so Geelong, Gold Coast have a team. Melbourne. I'm going to give Melbourne Port Adelaide twice, because they played a reasonably... It wasn't the greatest game ever, but they did play, and so Port Adelaide has a second bottom 6 team, but it was a close game. So Hawthorn's probably just going to smash all these teams, so I'm just going to give them to West Coast. Sorry, West Coast, but someone had to get Hawthorn twice. I don't think Hawthorn will be as good next year, so they may be getting a second team. So I think the Cats... Who do they get? North or Richmond? I'm going to give the Cats to Richmond. That's a bit of a 50-50 call. I reckon that could go either way. I'm going to give the Giants to North Melbourne. So every bottom 6 team has a top 6 team, a middle 6 team, and 2 bottom 6 teams. Just double checking that. Top 6, middle 6, 2 bottom 6, 2 bottom 6, middle 6, top 6. 2 top 6, 2 bottom 6, a middle 6, a middle 6, 2 top 6, 2 bottom 6, a top 6, a top 6, 3 bottom 6, yeah. So every bottom 6 team has their minimum that they can play. And so I think for Adelaide, I just need to give them what they can get. Yeah. So I want to finish off these bottom 6 teams before... So, I've lost where I was. Oh yeah, so I've just given each of the bottom 6 teams their minimum that they have to get. We're 18 minutes through the recording, so I want to quickly get this done. I may not quite get this finished in this video, but that's okay, because we did a few others. And I'll check to make sure that this so far actually works when I'm off recording. So the Suns, they need 2 teams, and they can have anyone. The Demons can have anyone. The Crows cannot get a top 6 team. Eagles can get anyone. Richmond and North cannot get bottom 6 teams. I don't know why, but to me it makes sense that the Crows and the Suns play each other twice. You know what? Gold Coast and Collingwood played each other in a close game this year, so I'm going to give them a game to each other, and I'm liking the bottom 2 teams that I've given Collingwood, and I can't give Collingwood any more bottom 2 teams. So Melbourne, they play Carlton, they play Port Adelaide. I think these are going to have to be just teams that I'm not 100% sure. I believe I don't actually know who played close games here. I think I'm going to give St Kilda to Richmond, and I'm going to give Essendon to North Melbourne. And we're almost done, so we've just got 6 more games to organise. I think I want to give Gold Coast a top 6 team, and I think I'm going to give them Gold Coast. Sydney hasn't got a single bottom 6 team, so let's get the Swans to play. I reckon the Swans will play West Coast twice, yeah. And I'm going to give this... No, I can't give the Saints and Demons to each other. But I can give Fremantle and the Demons to each other. Brisbane and Adelaide already have each other. Geelong, you're going to play Melbourne. And Adelaide and West Coast just need a team. So Adelaide need either a middle 6 or a bottom 6. They can't get a top 6, and West Coast also can't get a top 6. I want to give... Do they already play each other? No. So there we go. So let's just make sure this works. So every top 6 team has a bottom 6 team. Every middle 6 team has a bottom 6 team. And the bottom 6 team, they all have 2 to 3. Yeah, I think this works. 2 top 6. So there's 2, 2 and 2. Another 2, 2 and 2. You've got a 2, a 3 and a 1. Got another 2, 2 and 2. And you got North Melbourne and Richmond have 2 top 3s, 2 bottom 6, 2 middle 6, and 2 top 6. So there we go. So that's where I'm going to end it off here. We're going to work out the rest of these repeat matches in the next episode of trying to figure out the 2025 fixture, which this series doesn't have a name yet, but yeah, in the next video I'll be trying to work out the rest of these 6 teams, the rest of the double up matches. Thanks for watching.